I was the one who handed Jarl Torsten the drinking horn. I watched him drain it to the bottom, watched him smile and raise it to the gods. And then I watched him collapse, foam spilling from his mouth, his body convulsing on the feast hall floor. They said I poisoned him. They said I was a traitor. But I'm just a skald, a storyteller who's never held a blade in anger. And someone very clever just made me their scapegoat. If you already suspect who poisoned the Jarl, speak your theory below. Most who watch will guess wrong. My name is Finn Wordweaver, and for 20 winters I've traveled between Viking war camps, singing sagas and earning my keep with words instead of steel. I've sat at 100 feast tables. I've drunk with jarls and thralls alike. Norse warriors respect a good skald. We carry their deeds into legend. We turn their battles into songs that will outlive them. But I never imagined I'd be accused of murder the night before the greatest raid of the season. The feast had been glorious that evening. 200 Norse warriors gathered in Jarl Torsten's longhouse, celebrating tomorrow's attack on the Frankish monastery at Rouen. Rich with Christian gold and undefended by soldiers, the perfect target. Mead flowed like northern rivers. Roasted boar and venison filled the wooden tables. The air was thick with pine smoke from the central fire, and the sound of warriors making boasts about the plunder they'd claim. I'd been performing for 3 hours, singing the saga of Ragnar's sons, telling the tale of Bjorn Ironside's raid on Rome. The warriors loved it. They always did. They threw silver coins at my feet. They demanded more stories. And Jarl Torsten himself, sitting on his high seat carved with dragons and ravens, called me forward. "Finn Wordweaver!" His voice boomed across the hall. "You honor us with your songs. Come, drink with me. Share my cup as my guest." It was an honor I couldn't refuse. When a jarl invites you to his table to drink from his personal horn, you accept. To refuse would be an insult worth killing over. So I climbed the steps to his platform, bowed with respect, and accepted the drinking horn his servant handed me. The mead was sweet, honey and herbs, the finest brew I'd tasted in months. I drank deep and returned the horn to the jarl with proper ceremony. Torsten smiled, that broad grin of a man who'd never lost a battle, and took the horn from my hands. "Tomorrow we sail for Francia," he shouted to the hall. "Tomorrow we bring glory to our names and wealth to our families. Odin watches us, Thor blesses our blades." The warriors roared approval. Fists pounded on tables. Someone started a war chant. The energy in that longhouse was like thunder before a storm. Then Jarl Torsten raised the drinking horn high above his head and drank. I watched him tilt it back, watched the mead pour down his throat, watched him finish every drop like a true Norse warrior should. And then, everything went wrong. First, his eyes went wide, confused, like he couldn't understand what his body was feeling. The horn fell from his hand, clattering on the wooden platform. He grabbed his throat with both hands, gasping, choking on air that wouldn't come. "My lord?" I stepped forward, not understanding yet. "Are you—" White foam bubbled from his mouth. His whole body went rigid, like a drawn bow. Then he collapsed backward off his high seat, crashing to the floor. His body convulsed, once, twice, 3 times. Each spasm more violent than the last. The hall went silent, except for the crackling fire. 200 warriors frozen in shock. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. We all just stared at our jarl writhing on the ground, foam and blood mixing at his lips. Then someone screamed, "Poison! The jarl is poisoned!" Chaos erupted. Warriors jumped to their feet. Weapons were drawn. Torsten's sons rushed forward, trying to help their father. But it was too late. I could see it in his eyes already. That distant look of a man leaving this world for the next. And then every eye in that longhouse turned to me. I stood there on the platform, still holding my position by the high seat, the last person to touch the drinking horn. The outsider. The wandering Skald with no clan, no oath, no reason to be trusted. "He did it!" someone shouted. "The Skald poisoned our Jarl!" My stomach dropped like a stone into icy water. "No, I didn't. I would never. Seize him!" That was Bjorn, Torsten's eldest son, his face twisted with grief and rage. "Grab that oath-breaking dog before he runs!" 3 warriors rushed me. I didn't fight. What could I do? I'm a man of words, not battle. They grabbed my arms, forced me to my knees, pressed my face against the cold wooden floor. Around me I could hear Jarl Torsten's final breaths, the death rattle in his throat. And I knew with terrible certainty that someone had just murdered a Jarl and made sure I would die for it. They dragged me into the storage room behind the feast hall and chained me to a support beam. My wrists burned where the iron bit into skin. Outside, I could hear the chaos. Warriors shouting, Torsten's wife wailing, his sons demanding immediate justice. Bjorn, the eldest son, stormed into the room. His face was red with fury and grief. Behind him came Arna, the second son, and their war council of 6 veteran warriors. All of them looked at me like I was already dead. "Why?" Bjorn's voice shook. "Why would you kill my father? He honored you. He paid you silver. He invited you to his table." "I didn't poison him," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart hammered like Thor's drums. "I swear by all the gods, I handed him that horn, but I didn't put poison in it." "Then who did?" Arna stepped forward, younger than his brother but somehow more dangerous, colder. "You were the last one to touch it. Everyone saw you." Someone else had access to that horn before me. Someone planned this, made me their tool. Bjorn grabbed my throat, not hard enough to choke me, but enough to make his point clear. "My father is dead." Foam still drips from his mouth. His body jerks like a gutted fish. "And you expect me to believe you're innocent?" "Search me," I gasped. "If I poisoned him, where's the vial? Where's the evidence? I have nothing on me but my cloak and my eating knife." They did search me, roughly, tearing through my belongings, checking every fold of cloth, every pocket. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. But that didn't stop them from believing I was guilty. "Maybe you drank it yourself," one of the council warriors suggested. "Swallowed the evidence." "Then I'd be dead too," I pointed out. "That poison worked in seconds. You all saw." A long silence followed. I could see them processing this. The logic made sense, but logic doesn't matter much when grief and rage fill a room. "The Thing Assembly," Arna finally said. "We hold judgment at dawn. Let the warband decide his fate." "Dawn?" Bjorn's eyes blazed. "I say we blood eagle him now. Let him scream through the night." "No." Arna placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. "Father would want proper justice, the old way. Let every warrior see the evidence and cast their vote." Bjorn looked like he wanted to argue. His fists clenched and unclenched, but finally he nodded. "Dawn then. But if the assembly finds you guilty, Skald, your death will be long and your screams will carry across the entire camp." They left me chained in the dark, just me and the sound of my own breathing, and the distant noise of a war band falling apart. Without Jarl Torsten, tomorrow's raid was finished. 200 warriors would scatter back to their homes. All that wealth, all that glory, gone because someone wanted their leader dead. But who? And why? I closed my eyes and forced myself to think like I was composing a saga. Every story has a villain. Every villain has a motive. Poison isn't a warrior's weapon. It's a coward's tool. Someone who couldn't face Torsten in honorable combat. Someone who needed him dead before the raid. Who benefited from Torsten's death? His sons would inherit his position. Bjorn was the obvious choice, eldest, experienced, respected. But Bjorn's grief seemed genuine. That rage in his eyes wasn't performed. He truly believed I killed his father. What about Arne, the second son? Colder, more calculating. In Norse tradition, the eldest inherits everything unless the Thing Assembly decides otherwise. Maybe Arne wanted his chance. Maybe he poisoned his own father and framed the wandering Skald who nobody would defend. Or maybe it was someone else entirely, someone who wanted the raid to fail. A rival Jarl, a Saxon spy, someone in the warband itself. I needed answers, and I had until dawn to find them. The door creaked open. I tensed, expecting more violence. But the figure who entered was small, wrapped in a dark cloak, moving quietly like smoke. "Don't speak," a woman's voice whispered. "Just listen." She pulled back her hood. I recognized her. Astrid, one of the shield maidens in Torsten's personal guard. Young, but deadly. I'd seen her training with the warriors earlier that day. "You didn't poison him," she said quietly. "I know because I saw who did." My breath caught. "Then tell them. Clear my name." "I can't. If I speak, I'm dead. The killer is too powerful, too protected. But I can help you escape." "Escape?" I shook my head. "Where would I go? Every Viking camp from here to Uppsala will know my name by tomorrow. I'd be hunted forever." "Better hunted than dead." She pulled something from her cloak. A small iron key. "This opens your chains. There's a side door 50 paces north. 2 horses wait in the trees beyond." "Why are you helping me?" Her eyes met mine in the darkness. "Because Jarl Torsten was like a father to me, and I won't let his real killer walk free while an innocent man dies." I stared at the key in Astrid's hand. Escape meant living as an outlaw. Staying meant certain death. But running also meant the real killer would never face justice. "Tell me who did it," I said quietly. "Give me a name." "I can't, not yet. If I accuse them without proof, they'll kill me and call me a liar." She pressed the key into my palm. "Run now. Live. Find your own answers." "No." I closed her fingers back around the key. "If you know who poisoned Torsten, then help me prove it. We have until dawn. That's enough time." Astrid studied my face in the darkness, looking for weakness, maybe, or courage. Finally, she nodded. "The poison came from Arn's private chest. I saw him handle a small vial 3 days ago. He hid it quickly when I entered his tent, but I recognized the container. Dark glass, Saxon make, the kind slave traders use." My blood went cold. The second son. He wants his brother's inheritance. More than that, Arn has gambling debts, massive ones. He owes silver to a Frankish merchant who threatened to expose him unless he paid. Tomorrow's raid was supposed to solve everything, but Arn wanted more than a warrior's share. He wanted his father's entire fortune. So he poisoned Torsten and framed me. The pieces clicked together like a lock opening. But how did he get the poison into the drinking horn? I watched that horn the entire time. Nobody touched it except the servant who handed it to me. Astrid's expression darkened. "What servant?" The one who brought the horn from Torsten's table. Young man, dark beard. I'd never seen him before, but I assumed... There was no servant, Astrid interrupted. Jarl Torsten always poured his own mead at feasts. Always. It's his tradition. His superstition. He trusted no one else to handle his cup. The implications hit me like a cold wave. Then who handed me that horn? Someone dressed as a servant. Someone who knew you wouldn't question it in the chaos of the feast. She grabbed my arm. Finn, that wasn't a servant. That was the killer himself. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to remember. The young man's face, dark beard, medium height. But his hands. I remembered his hands now. Calloused, scarred across the knuckles. The hands of a warrior, not a servant. Describe Arn to me, I said urgently. 20 winters old, dark beard, medium build, scar on his right knuckle from sword training. It was him. Arn had disguised himself as a servant, poisoned his own father's drinking horn, and handed it directly to me. Everyone had been watching the performance, drinking, celebrating. Nobody noticed one more figure moving through the hall. We need proof, I said. The vial. If we can find it in Arn's possession, he's not stupid enough to keep it. He probably buried it or threw it in the fjord. Then we need a confession, or a witness who saw him prepare the poison. Astrid shook her head. No one will testify against Torsten's son, not without undeniable evidence. The warband loves those boys. Arna could admit it to their faces, and they'd call him grief-mad, not guilty. Outside, footsteps approached, heavy boots, multiple warriors. Astrid pulled her hood up quickly. I have to go. If they find me here talking to you, we're both dead. She turned toward the door, then paused. There's one person who might help. Old Greta, the healer woman. She knows poisons. She'd recognize what killed Torsten. If we can prove the poison came from Arna's chest, maybe that's enough. Where is she? South edge of camp, small tent by the horse paddock. But be careful. Arna has warriors watching everywhere. If he suspects you're investigating... The door burst open. 3 guards entered with torches. They saw Astrid immediately. What are you doing here, shield maiden? The lead guard demanded. Astrid's hand moved to her sword hilt. Her voice came out steady and cold. I came to spit in the murderer's face, to tell him he'll scream when we carve his ribs apart tomorrow. She actually did spit at me. The saliva hit my cheek and I understood. She was protecting herself, protecting both of us. The guards laughed, satisfied with her explanation. Get out then, one said. No one talks to the prisoner except Bjorn and Arna. Astrid left without looking back, but I'd seen her eyes, seen the plan forming there. She would go to old Greta. She would get the evidence we needed, and somehow, before dawn, we would expose Arna's betrayal. I just had to survive until then. Hours crawled past like wounded animals. I sat in the darkness, wrists raw from the chains, listening to the camp slowly quiet down. Torsten's body had been moved to the burial tent. The feast hall emptied. Warriors stumbled to their sleeping quarters, drunk and confused. And I waited for Astrid to return with proof. The door opened again just before midnight, but it wasn't Astrid who entered. It was Arna. He carried a torch and wore a smile that made my skin crawl. Behind him stood 2 of his personal guards, hands resting on sword hilts. Comfortable, Skald? Arna's voice was pleasant, almost friendly. That's when I knew I was in real danger. Come to gloat before the execution? I kept my voice steady. Actually, I came to make you an offer. He crouched down to my eye level. Confess to poisoning my father. Die quickly with a blade through the heart, or refuse and face the blood eagle. Hours of screaming while we peel your ribs open, one by one. I didn't poison him. I know. His smile widened. But you're going to say you did anyway. The casual confession stunned me. You killed your own father. I liberated myself from a fool. Arna stood up, brushing dirt from his knees. My father wanted glory, wanted to raid and fight and die in battle like some saga hero. But I want wealth, power, a proper hall in Uppsala, not some drafty war camp. The gambling debts. His eyes narrowed. Who told you about that? I said nothing, praying Astrid was still safe wherever she'd gone. Doesn't matter, Arna shrugged. By dawn, you'll be dead. My brother Bjorn will lead the raid. He'll fail because he's too honorable and too stupid. And when the warband returns broken and poor, they'll choose me as the new Jarl. Everything works out perfectly. Except you murdered your father. I freed my family from poverty disguised as honor. He turned toward the door. Think about my offer, Skald. Quick death or slow? Your choice. I'll return at dawn for your answer. After he left, I had maybe 2 hours until sunrise. 2 hours to escape or prove his guilt. But the chains held firm, and Astrid hadn't returned. Then I heard it. A soft scratching at the back wall, wood creaking, a plank being pried loose from outside. Finn? Astrid's whisper came through the gap. Don't speak, just listen. She pushed a small cloth bundle through the opening. Old Greta identified the poison. Wolfsbane mixed with nightshade. Rare, expensive. Only 3 people in this camp had access to it. Arna, obviously. Who else? The healer herself, and Torsten's personal physician who died last winter. My hope sank. That's not enough proof. Arna will just claim anyone could have stolen it. There's more. Her voice carried a grim satisfaction. Greta found something in her medicine chest. A broken wax seal. Someone picked the lock and took a vial 3 days ago. She never reported it because she thought she'd misplaced it. Still not proof. But this is. Something else slid through the gap. A small, dark bottle. I searched Arn's tent after he left, found this under his sleeping furs. Empty, but it still smells of wolfsbane. And look at the seal. Even in the darkness, I could see it. The broken wax. The same distinctive color Greta used for her medicine stores. This was the vial stolen from her chest. This was the murder weapon. How did you get into his tent without being caught? Doesn't matter. What matters is getting this to the thing assembly at dawn. But Finn, Arn has 6 warriors loyal to him. If we accuse him publicly, they'll kill us both before anyone can examine the evidence. Then we need someone they'll listen to, someone they respect more than Arn. Bjorn. She understood immediately. If the eldest son accuses his brother, the warband will listen. Will he believe us? He loved his father more than anything. If we show him proof his brother is the killer. She paused. Yes, he'll believe us, and he'll demand justice. Dawn light was starting to creep through the cracks in the walls. The thing assembly would convene within the hour. We had one chance to expose Arn before he could silence us forever. Can you reach Bjorn? I asked urgently. I'll try, but Finn, if this fails, we're both dead. If this fails, I'm dead anyway. I managed a bitter smile. At least this way I die telling the truth. Dawn broke cold and gray over the war camp. 200 warriors gathered in a circle around the Thingstone. I stood at the center, still chained, while Bjorn and Arna sat in judgment on their father's high seats. The war band was restless, angry. They wanted blood for their fallen Jarl, and I was the easiest target. "Finn Wordweaver," Bjorn's voice carried across the assembly. "You stand accused of poisoning Jarl Torsten. How do you answer?" "Innocent," I said clearly. "But I know who the real killer is." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Arna leaned forward with a cold smile. "Bold words from a dead man," he said. "Do you have proof, or just more stories?" Before I could answer, Astrid pushed through the crowd. She held the dark vial high, where everyone could see it. "I have proof," she called out. "This vial contains traces of wolfsbane and nightshade, the same poison that killed our Jarl. I found it hidden in Arna's tent less than an hour ago." The crowd erupted. Warriors shouted. Arna shot to his feet. "Lies! She planted it there. She's trying to save her friend, the Skald." "Then explain the broken wax seal," old Greta's voice cut through the chaos. The ancient healer stepped forward, leaning on her staff. 3 days ago, someone broke into my medicine stores, stole a vial of poison. That seal is mine, my mark, and it matches the seal on this bottle perfectly." Bjorn's face had gone pale. He stared at his brother with dawning horror. "Arna?" His voice shook. "Tell me this isn't true." "It's not," Arna said quickly. Too quickly. "Brother, you know me. I loved our father. Why would I—" "Because of the gambling debts," I interrupted. "Because you owe a Frankish merchant more silver than you could ever earn in 10 raids. Because you wanted your father's wealth, not his glory." Arna's mask cracked, just for a moment, but everyone saw it. "You have no proof of debts," he snarled. "Just accusations and a planted vial." "The merchant's name is Claude of Rouen," Astrid said. "He's camped 2 days north waiting for payment. Send riders. Ask him yourself." The Thing assembly fell silent. All eyes turned to Arna, watching, waiting. And in that silence, I saw his face change. Saw him realize he'd lost. "Fine," he said quietly. Then louder. "Fine! Yes, I poisoned him. My own father. The great Jarl Torsten, who cared more about honor than his own family's survival. Who would have led us all to poverty, chasing glory in Francia." Bjorn stood slowly. His hand moved to his sword hilt. "You killed our father for silver?" "I killed him because he was a fool!" Arna's voice rose to a shout. "Because you're all fools, following old gods and old ways while the world changes around you. I wanted wealth, power, a future that doesn't end with an axe in my skull." The warband moved as one, a circle of steel closing around Arna. He realized too late that his confession had sealed his fate. "Brother," Bjorn's voice was colder than winter ice. "You will die by blood eagle, just as you planned for this innocent Skald, and your screams will be the last song anyone sings about your name." They seized Arna. He tried to fight, but 6 warriors held him down. His loyal guards stood frozen, unwilling to defend a confessed oath-breaker and father-killer. Bjorn turned to me. "Finn Wordweaver, you are cleared of all charges. Forgive me for doubting your honor." He unlocked my chains himself. My wrists were bloody and raw, but I was free. What happened to Arna next, I won't describe in detail. The blood eagle is meant to be a warning carved into flesh. His screams echoed across the camp until midday,
when mercy finally came. That evening, Bjorn called me to the high seat.
The raid is cancelled. The warband will disperse. But you, Skald, you've earned a place in my saga. Wherever I go, you're welcome at my fire.
I left the next morning, back to the wandering life, back to singing songs and telling tales. But I carry that story with me still. The night a Jarl's son murdered his own father for silver and gambling debts. The night poison nearly claimed an innocent man. If you seek more tales of Norse betrayal and Viking justice, join our warband. Tell me, did you guess Arno was the killer? In the world of Vikings, honor is earned, betrayal is punished, and every tale begins with a lie and ends with blood. Skål, warriors, until we meet in the next saga.